Have people given signals and so on. So, I don't know. Power grid mission.
Not showing anybody in the waiting room yet, so I think we can get started.
All right, then I'll call the meeting to order and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Mochler.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
Graylobe.
Here.
Easy.
Here.
Hammond may or may not be joining by Zoom for anybody that's out there.
Are there any conflicts of interest to declare? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So move. Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved. Second.
It's a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Are there any visitors to be heard?
I would like to be heard.
Yeah, why don't you come on up and.
I'm Pat Flanagan, and I'm a volunteer with the Salvation Army here in Vermilion. And as a community, we have engaged in numerous discussions about housing needs in Vermilion, but have failed to adequately address the profound impact the housing shortage is having on our most vulnerable residents. Organizations like the Salvation Army and the others at the Community Connection Center have witnessed a significant increase in evictions this year. In 2024 alone, we have worked with dozens of families and individuals who are homeless or on the brink of homelessness. The poverty rate in Vermilion has risen to over 26%, a troubling indicator of our community's economic health. Furthermore, the majority of Vermilion residents are renters, and 56.7% of them are considered housing burdened, meaning they spend more than 30% of their income on housing. Alarmingly, 17% of the households spend more than half of their income on housing, and 20% of households experience severe housing problems with an overriding high housing costs and inadequate kitchen or plumbing facilities. Consider the single mother of three who loses her job and falls behind on rent, or the grandmother caring for multiple generations who faces a sudden increase in trailer lot rent beyond her financial capability. When they lose their housing, there aren't others. Affordability options in the area, and landlords are increasing unwillingly to work with them when they can easily fill these units with new tenants. These are not isolated incidents, but rather reflections of a hidden crisis. Many evicted individuals resort to moving in with family, risking further evictions due to overcrowding and creating a cascade of housing issues. Resources to combat this crisis are scarce. The Salvation Army funds are limited, and other housing programs through the Rural Rocks of Community Services, which is ROCS, the Vermilion Housing Authority, are facing funding freezes. The end of COVID era aid programs has exacerbated the situation. We urgently need our community and government to step up and address this crisis. Ignoring our low-income population is not an option. It is time to prioritize affordable housing and support those on margins. We must come together to develop sustainability solutions that ensure every Vermilion resident has a safe and stable place to call home. Sincerely, Pat Flanagan. We're just, it's very sad. I just printed out. Thank you.
And I can just say thank you, and Pat knows what she's talking about, because she is the prime volunteer.
Tons of people all the time now coming in with evictions, and we can't solve it. And nor can housing. I mean,
So I can add some to that, because our situation with Vermillion Housing Authority currently is our funding is froze, and we do not anticipate getting any additional funding this year.
right.
So we are, what our issue was, is the cost of everything's going up, and these rents,
Right.
literally, you know, June 1st is our turnover in this town. And literally from May to June, our monthly cost increased about $25,000.
Right.
And we did not have that in our budget.
I'm aware of that, and I'm limited to $200 a year. So, and I'm supposed to, according to the Salvation Army rules, only help with an eviction. Well, I've started helping before they get to that spot.
Yep.
But still, I don't have the funds, you know, everything is donated to me.
It's this, I could add also, this is a nationwide problem. I
Yeah.
just read an article yesterday that Iowa City, Iowa has 10,000 people on their waiting list.
Yeah. No,
So,
it's a really giant problem.
Yeah.
And the other thing is when family members move in with others, then people are being evicted because of that.
great, there's capacities.
Right.
You know. And so
So if you
It's-
own your house, you can take in lots of people, but
sad to say, I think this is just the start of it.
Yeah.
It's gonna get worse.
So Dave, you were saying then that, so of all the rental assistance that VHA provides, like all those people that are on the list, in order to cover the rent increases that occurred on June 1st, that would have been an additional $25,000 a month for your organization?
My office,
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because.
Just want to make sure I have
we had
that clear. Oh my
Quite
gosh.
a few rents increase $200 to $300 per
Right.
month.
What,
there's no way those people can afford that.
what percentage of your monthly budget is 25,000 roughly? Is that like, what's the approximate monthly amount outlay from your office?
It had been, we put about $100,000 a month into the community.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It's not good.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pat.
And that is something to think about, because it's gonna take the whole community to do this. Did you wanna speak? It's, if it's on the agenda, it'll happen during okay, excellent. Thank you.
I'm Tim Schreiner, the chair of the Clay County Historic Preservation Commission. And by rule, each year, we're supposed to prepare an annual report for the state office. And so I've done that for the last year, and I figured you'd all want a copy since we're a creation of the county commission in 1987. So I just brought copies for you. That's all I wanted to do.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Yeah.
Appropriate to leave them with you.
Yeah. I'll pass them around.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
take it for him. Yeah, I'll give it to him.
And thank you for chairing the commission. We appreciate it. It's I've done that job, and it's a job. All right. Anybody else? All right, then we'll go on to the first agenda item, which is the canvass of the 2024 primary elections.
Is this the only time for open comments?
Unless it's something on the agenda. If it's not, if it's not on the agenda, yes,
Yeah, thank you.
of course, please.
I'll just introduce myself first. My name is Clinton Christensen. I don't think too many people know me here, but I am a Vermillion native. I grew up here, class of 2002. My family still lives here, and I'll be moving back soon in 2 months to Sioux Falls, actually. So I just wanted to address the commission first. Thank you for giving me the opportunity regarding the setbacks on potential solar farm ordinances. I would like to urge the commission to adopt. I'm sorry, this is not the time.
Yeah,
Oh, my bad.
that is an agenda item.
That's on the
Yep,
agenda, so
yep.
we'll welcome
Thank
you
you.
back
Yeah, yep.
at that time. Yeah, that's part of the public hearing.
Yep.
Yeah, I know it gets a little confusing, doesn't it? Nope, you're not out of order at all. Okay, so canvas.
Okay. Give me just a minute to get things organized. Like I said, usually we are the first to do the canvas. This year, the city did their canvas first, which is fine, but I just have to get things organized for ours now.
Okay.
Dave, I will probably pick on you a little bit since you're sitting right here by me. Just going to have you verify that I've got these seal numbers on this log list. And then the third number here is the one that the city took off when they did their canvas. Okay.
Excuse me.
Well, Katie did say that when they finished their canvas, they may have put the green sheets back in with the poll books. So the person in charge of the poll book, will check the numbers at the end of the poll book, number of voters, and that'll be verified with the number of ballots from the tabulation sheets. When you pull those poll books out, if you see a green sheet, please pass it to the person that is in charge of the green sheets, because those are the recap sheets from the end of the night that we verified against the number of ballots that we ran through the tabulator. So those numbers should equal out. And then we also have the canvas certificates that have the number of votes that I reported to the state on election night. So that should also match our tabulator sheets. Who wants to be in charge of the poll books?
Sure.
Okay.
All right.
Right, and then maybe Travis, do you want the green sheets then, since you guys are right next to each other? Okay. And then
The first one, it's sealed, right?
Yep, and you can, we've got an envelope opener, I think, with our big stuff here, so. Yep. And slice that open. And then Betty, I will give you the results. So up in the corner of each sheet, this first 2 pages is the detailed results for the entire election. And then from there, each precinct is up here in the corner. So as they read them, we'll want to compare.
All right, so I just open this up. And I pull
this is the
out.
canvas certificate that we provide to the state. So you'll see each candidate has their total number of votes. We want to make sure that for each precinct matches with the tabulator sheets.
Okay. You can just say how many total votes, which ward do you have?
This is absentee rural Ward 1. Or the ward is absentee rural precinct 1.
Okay.
Okay.
Do we have, oh, you know what? I wonder. Back on the screen. For rural boards.
So this is precinct 1,
Rural Ward,
Oh, there we go. And then I just go up here. Got
Rural
this.
Ward 1.
so it'll be R.
This is-
one.
Yeah, probably RW. Yeah.
Let me just. Run and grab the copies of the green sheets. In case we don't have one of them. Be right back.
Yeah, this.
Oh, I'm just gonna go grab a copy of it.
Precinct 1, I had 21.
For Rural Ward 1.
Yep.
And I don't have those yet.
Okay.
So is rural ward 1 marked W1 or
I believe
Should be,
it's,
yes.
W1 is rural ward 1?
Yeah, because otherwise it's gonna be northwest, northeast, southwest,
Okay.
southeast,
Okay.
or SE in there. 1 and 2.
Yep.
I have northwest and central.
Got some copies here. So here's one. And you're gonna have them up in the corner. One will be absentee and one will be, so we'll have to add the totals together.
Yep.
So,
So I have, this is central.
okay.
This is central 1 and 2 also.
Yep, so that's, one of them is absentee and one of them is polling place.
Okay.
So like here's precinct 1
that's gonna be true for all
and
of
then
them.
2. Yeah, that'll be true for all of them. We'll have to add the total. Since
Okay.
we report it as one precinct and not as polling place versus absentee.
We can do that. All right. So I've got my poll book for the absentees. So I'm gonna open also the one for the in-person for rural ward 1. Okay,
Precinct 1.
so precinct 1,
We are rural board.
Rural Ward 1, right?
Not.
yes,
Just precinct.
rural
1.
ward 1, but it's also just being listed as precinct 1 on everything.
Right,
It seems like, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people commonly refer to precincts 1, 2, and 3 as the rural wards. So they'll say
Okay.
like rural. ward.
Okay.
All right,
So
so
it is precinct.
Yeah.
absentee, I had
Yeah.
21. In person, I had 79. So to me, that is 100. That sound right to you?
Say it again.
Absentee, 21. We had 79 in person. So together that comes up to 100. Am I figuring?
Yep.
Does that jive for everybody?
Your total sheets process.
All right, so I'm gonna put this back in this one. This back in this one.
Where do you want the green sheets? Just leave them out?
Yeah, I think just hang on to them. Yeah, I have to send an original to the state, but I have to.
Okay, and now I'm gonna open the rural ward 2 absentee.
Okay.
Or 2 in person.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's. So, rural ward 2. We have 10 absentee. 61 in person. So that comes up to 71, am I figuring? And then I do have 2 personal identification affidavits in.
That's okay. Those are just, I instructed them to put them with their important papers, and these are the
There you
most
go.
important papers.
Important papers. All right, put that back in there.
That checks out.
And Rural Ward 3. There's an envelope marked unofficial returns.
Well, Travis, because I believe we should have those.
All right, so we're looking at reading now.
Okay. So these are just, yeah, these are copies of each person's. So if you find that you need one of these. Or to keep everything together, but with two different canvases going on at two different times. Oh, what difficult there.
Okay. So
Set this over here, in case you find that you need a copy of anything, if there's
Okay.
extras.
So I've got Rural Ward 3, absentee is 66. In the in-person, there are 244 lines filled here, but it's marked 244 minus 2 equals 242. So
Okay,
there's a name scratched out
scratched out, yep,
and
yep. Occasionally that happens, and so then I instruct them to keep track
Yep.
of those numbers because the lines are numbers.
Yep.
So then if you scratch something out on one, that can throw you off at the end of the
Yeah.
night.
just making sure that. Yep, and if I found the other one, so there's 2 names scratched out, every other line has a name on it. So
Okay,
That's not jiving with this sheet.
242 plus 66 does not jive for Rural Ward 3. Let's take a look here.
Well, it's how they got to the 242.
Well, let's see what is.
so their calculations,
Yeah, it jives with this sheet.
okay. So the number of ballots that went through the tabulator is the same as the number in the poll book, correct? You have, what do you have on the tabulation sheet?
On the screen one?
Um,
Is that the white one?
on the one that Betty has,
308.
308, and you have
That
a total of,
matches.
you have a total of
308 matches.
That's
Yep.
right, yeah. Okay.
So your
that's
question
the
here-
important part of
well-
the poll book.
These are supposed to be the
Matches.
ones that are actually used to vote. These were the unvoted ones of the ones Carrie sent. Carrie sent 275, 285, and 100.
Okay.
So I mean, there was
They
194.
did say they had trouble with the recap sheet, and sometimes at the end of the night, the math just makes them tired. But as long as the poll book matches the number of ballots that ran through the tabulator, which is what you have, Betty,
Okay.
then that's the important part. The green sheets are kind of like a triple check.
Cause this adds up to 260.
That adds up to 269, and this is balance spoiled.
And they did tell me they weren't sure of their match on the green sheet, so.
I'm not sure where the error is there.
Somebody didn't.
Right.
Somebody didn't add right there.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Green sheet,
Okay.
so, and that's Rural Ward 3.
Yeah, like I said, the number in the full book map is the calculator, so that's
Yep.
the important part.
All right. Central, now this is the absentee one. This is central. Yep. I've got absentee in Central Ward 58. In person, Central Ward 133. Jive for you guys?
Yep, total
Right.
91.
Oh, that's right. We're the city ones, yeah, so they,
Yep,
like, that's why they're all four open.
and they did not have an alderman race in Central, so that's why Central was still sealed.
Ah, right. So we've got,
And I see the green sheet in the full book there.
yes, so I'll pass that off to you. All right, so absentee northeast. And that is 52. And in person, northeast. 101. 1 at 52. Oh, I'm sorry, there's a green sheet here. I have nothing on them. Very good, Travis.
You said 101?
Yeah. Right. Now we're gonna go southeast 1, absentee. Here is your green sheet. Southeast 1, absentee. Total 116. And southeast in person. Here's your green sheet. Southeast 1 in person. 293.
About 409.
All right. And southeast 2, absentee. Now we're getting a rhythm now. Here we go. There's your green sheet. 68. 68 for southeast 2 absentee. Southeast 2 in person. Green sheet for you here. There's your green sheet, Travis. Southeast 2 in person, 183. Not going to be bad. Northwest. That's good. Okay. Northwest absentee. 105. And Northwest in person. There, the green sheet. $277. All right.
Our turnout was just below 23%, and it's down a little bit from 2022 and 2020. But I expected that because nationwide the turnout has been lower this year. So then Betty and Dave, if you would run through your lists and just compare the candidate votes.
I'm sorry?
If you would run through your lists and compare that the candidate votes on the tabulator sheets match the candidate votes on the certificate that has the results that I reported to the state.
Okay, so. We are. I've got them word by word, right?
You have a total sheet.
There's a total sheet?
First two.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
First two are.
Oh, yeah, all right.
And the races might not be in the exact same order, so maybe give Dave a second to find it on his.
Will do. So State Senator District 17. Let me know when you're ready. Sydney Davis, 486. Jeffrey Church, 250.
Yes.
All right. Then Representative State, let's see, State Senate District 18. Lauren Nelson, 35.
Yes.
And Jean Hunhoff, 16. State Representative District 17. Bill Shorma, 467. Chris Casson, 626. And Robin Shiro, 99.
Correct.
State Representative District 18. That would be Mike Stevens, 24. Julie Auck, 38. John Marquardt, 14. Precinct Committee Man, Precinct S1. Jan Burkhout, that's 20. And Arthur Rush, 122.
Correct.
Okay. School Board, District 13-1. Michael Phelan, 882. Corey Thomason, 489. And Rachel Olson, 1,147.
Yes.
Alderman. Let's see, Northeast Ward. That would be Jay Thaler, 88, and Ryan Church, 45. Alderman Northwest Ward, Brian Humphrey, 151. Gary Cheeseman, 217. Southeast Ward, Al Lieber, 370. Jeff Gilbertson, 257.
Yes.
And presidential candidates. You ready?
Yes.
Mary Ann Williamson, 44. Joseph R. Biden, 790. Dean Phillips, 32. And Armando Perez Serrato, 13.
Correct.
For a total of 957 votes.
There are 2 copies of the canvas certificate. If you would each sign both copies so that I can keep one and I can send one to the state. It's all in one bag, I may have to. Take out the. To split them into two, I don't think they're gonna fit in one. That's okay. And there. Do you need a signature there or? You don't need. No, this one I don't need. This is the counting, the tabulation employees' signatures on that. Right. Travis.
They got to pass down.
Oh, they're in there. Okay. I just want to make sure.
They're
we have
the
everything
small
before
envelope
I
that's
seal
in
it
there,
back
yeah.
up.
All right, we all set?
I have one more item for the canvas.
Okay.
So for those that are not familiar, South Dakota is doing a post-election audit now. This is the first year for it. This is a really good thing. It just verifies that the tabulator functioned the way that we expected it to on election night. So what I am required to do by law is to draw first a precinct, because we need to audit 5% of the precincts, which essentially equals 1 in our case, as long as there are over 100 ballots cast in that precinct. And then we have to select statewide contests. As it worked out, the only statewide contest we had was the Democratic presidential race, so that will automatically be audited. And then we'll have to select another contest because we have to audit 2. So it has to be done randomly without a computer. So let me just write this seal number down on my log here, and then we'll get started on that. So today, I am just gonna have you verify. We'll use our sheet for this, that I have 1 card in here for each of the precincts. Okay. So I'm just gonna separate these and throw them in our Halloween candy bucket. We use this for so many things through the year. Shake it out, mix it out. Betty, feel free to mix it up and I'll let you draw one.
All right. It is Central.
Central, all right. So then, from there, we are going to need, Central is District 17, so we're going to need District 17, State and House. They are not District 18, so I have removed those from the pile. I just want to take a look and verify that. Okay. And then I am also going to pull out precinct committee man for Southeast because they are not Southeast. They do have the school board. We're not Northeast, so I'm going to remove the alderman. Going to remove the alderman Northwest and the alderman Southeast. Okay, so those are the races that we have to choose from. Feel free to mix those up a little and pull one out.
Here we go. State Senator, District 17.
Okay. So those are the races that we will audit: Central Ward, the Democratic presidential race, and State Senator District 17. Our post-election audit will be June 24th at 9 a.m. And that is open to the public if anyone wants to attend. So from there, we can move on with the rest of the agenda.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you,
Oh,
public,
you
for
know what?
witnessing that.
I see I'm corrected for 1 second. I just need a quick motion to approve the canvas.
Is there a motion to?
I move to approve the canvas. Yep.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve the canvas. Any discussion?
Yeah, you said June 24th, Carrie,
Yes,
so that's not done at a commissioner?
No.
meeting? Okay.
nope, it is just done. We'll do it in this room. But it is done in much the same way that a recount is done. So there will be a board of people that will come in, bipartisan board, and they will hand count the races that we chose today.
All right. So, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And now we are, let's see, Scott, we're on to the bid opening for the elevator. It looks like we got two bids. Sound right?
That my hands are carried in there, so I'm not sure.
Yeah.
All right.
How many I got?
We received two.
We've got two bids. And the first one, they've got a bid bond as required. And for those who are not in the know, it's to upgrade our very, very old, very, very slow, cranky elevator. So first one's from Cone Care. Okay, so this would be $128,743, including tax.
Who was that one from?
Cone.
Cone, K-O-N-E,
Cone.
Cone Care. And it includes a bid bond as required. And the second one is from Schumacher Elevator Company out of Denver. Give us two options. They give us a pricing per spec option, which would be the one that would be comparable, $120,394. Then they have a pricing per spec and with a cab alternate at $144,084. And they have option 3, pricing complete modernization with building related work, and that's $247,325. Yep, they got a bid bond in there.
Okay.
Well, I leave it to you to
Todd,
the option, see.
okay. I have Todd Peterson here with me from Schumacher. If you have any questions, I had a lot of concerns. I sent an email out to you guys. And before I met Mr. Peterson here with Schumacher Elevator, we relieved a lot of those concerns about how this project could spiral. So if you have any questions, I entertain you can come up here and you could ask him your questions. And he could kind of explain the elevator industry in South Dakota, how works. Basically, South Dakota has an elevator code. I believe it's the national code. Yeah, come on up. Help. Maybe we can hear it right directly from the expert versus me.
Todd Peterson, Schumacher Elevator Company. We're based out of Denver, Iowa. I'm out of the Sioux Falls branch. So in talking to Scott in my survey, we had a lot of questions, concerns, or whatever that we were discussing. And I offered to come to the meeting and answer any questions you might have. In South Dakota, it gets kind of it's a little gray area because we don't have a code authority for the state like Iowa does, Nebraska, Minnesota. So some of the building related items that I have in our third option are things that we have to recommend as a elevator company that you should be doing to bring it up to the current code, which changing the controller, which is the brains of the operation. When you change that out, you need to bring it up to the current code. So that's why I included the third option for you, just so you know the added things that need to be done when we do the modernization. So is there any questions on that, or?
Where would you go with the stuff that's in there?
It just gets recycled.
No. The stuff that's run through there. I mean,
That was one of the main issues is that we
Okay,
had other.
so we kind of touched base on that. Again, you're in South Dakota, so some of these things, that's where that gray area gets. You do have a sewer pipe running in the corner. Your option is to box that out and kind of make it separate from the hoistway, which is per code. Or you can leave it in there and sign a waiver that you're okay with that happening. We do have government agencies that just say that, we're not doing that. We're not putting a phone in, whatever. But that being the case, you'll sign a waiver saying you acknowledge that we've presented it to you and you opted not to do that. So we just ask you to do that. But the machine room, which is part of that building related, is an important factor to keep that separate. That is a code item. So we have in that, third option to build a new hoist or a new machine room that's separate, keeps everything separate from everything else. So it is climate controlled, all the things that need to be done. Fixtures be new. And then within that complete mod, the third option is the cab upgrade included in on that. So it's complete.
All right. Any questions?
Is that the way Cone bid it then, Scott, too?
They bid it per specs. And the specs being the ones they wrote for the budgetary number. And what Schumacher did is, I believe your first number is per specs.
Yep.
And then the second number was, and it was in the specs too, as a separate line item. Give us a quote on what it would take to, to upgrade inside the cab.
So they had the same information. They just didn't do it.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, they just chose not to. So so Schumacher's first number is the spec. Schumacher's second number is the spec plus the modernization of the cab. And then the third number would be if we want to become compliant with that room, etc. But from what I understand, Mr. Peterson, correct me if I'm wrong, that we have the option, because we're in South Dakota and there's no elevator authority, that we can sign a waiver on some of these other things that we so desire. And then the liability is in our park, obviously, when we do that. So
how much liability are we waiving with that? I mean, is it just
something happens and it's related to not having upgraded the code items, that just washes our hands of, we told you about it, recommended that you do it, and if something happens, it's all on you.
And I guess this probably is a question that would potentially be in a courtroom decided, but I'm wondering, so would that be so like if we're talking about the sewer line, but you also are replacing the controller, if the controller failed for some reason or something, then that would still be something that you guys would take responsibility for, right? Okay.
Yeah, it's, from what I understand from Mr. Peterson here that, we're not the only old building in South Dakota that had, you know, the codes just evolve over the years. And, obviously since 65, there's probably been some additions to the elevator code, you know. You're not supposed to have anything in the hoistway or the shaft that's not elevator related. But as we all know, these older buildings, you gotta get stuff around somehow. And the shaft is actually the men's restrooms on second and third. So, you know,
Look at that.
plumbing stacks, run the vent, run the water line in there to get up to your upper floors.
Fun. You know, we did Davidson County when they did theirs. They've got big cables running up their hoistway. There's no way. And there was no room to even box them out. And they were just like, you know, we'll take the risk on that. Han County, when we did that one, they had a sewer line just almost identical what you had. They boxed it out. They just put a corner in it and called it good. Knowing that they might have to have access to it. It's marked out where the access points are and that kind of thing. So, you know, we work the best we can with you to get it as close to code as we can, but realizing there's some things that have happened. If you were in Iowa, this would not even be a discussion. You would be doing it, period. You would be moving the stuff and you would be boxing out, you would be whatever. And when you guys did the elevator, or they did back in this 65, there's some door openings that were in there that got blocked up, and there's ledges inside the hoistway. You know, I got pictures if you want to see them, but those need to have kind of a baffle on there so people can't stand on those edges. They'll slip off because that is, if somebody gets in there, they can stand on there and the elevator takes off, they're at risk of being killed.
You're talking about inside the shaft.
Yep, inside the shaft. Yep. So there's just some little things, just putting baffles in there. I mean, some of it's not a huge deal, but it just didn't get done back in 65 when this got put in. We're recommending per the code today that you do need to do that.
Are those items that are within the 144 or the 247 price? 247
Yep.
price. Okay.
Yep. That's the complete, everything building related, everything's gonna be taken care of. The only question that I have is, you know, what you want to do with that sewer event, because you will be losing access to that. So if you want us to box it out, we can box it out. All that kind of thing. So.
Has that been updated, Scott?
This cast iron line, it was probably put in, it was probably upgraded in the 60s when they put that shaft in. I'm sure it's not original to the building, but we've talked about lining these cast iron lines. So, you know, that if we go through with that project, that would get lined at that time. And they're a little, not to get it too far down that rabbit hole, but people I've talked to that are in that industry, so that stuff's pretty much indestructible. They'll stand behind it for life once they line them. So,
Any other questions?
Just trying to figure out how this is going to work.
Yeah.
Because when you say we lose access to that pipe, we'll never be able to get to it.
No, it's sheetrocked, right?
you,
So
you
it's
can
just fire.
you can still get to it.
I mean,
cut
in
a
an
pipe or
emergency, you
whatever.
get to it, you'll just have to patch it back in,
Right.
fire tape it back in. So, I mean, we don't want to make it, you know, concreted in so you can't get to it, but. And that's what we did in, Han County when we did theirs, just because we knew
You
someday
probably,
they might have to get to it.
you probably box that in with 2 water lines next to it.
I don't think they had any water lines. I think it was just the sewer that they had.
Okay.
But you're 2 water.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's tight. Everything's tight in that corner. So.
So I know this is a hard question, but those 3 options, what is the time frame that we'd be down and elevated?
And again, yes, that is a loaded question. We generally figure a week per floor and then another week for the machine room. That's just kind of a rule of thumb. So you'd have 5 weeks.
Okay.
For
And
the
that's
elevator.
for every option.
Pretty pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Cause we incorporated, guys are working, you know, we'll be in the machine room working, you know, somebody else will be in the hoistway working, that kind of thing. So we try to keep it condensed to as least amount of time as we can. And then, you know, you have a working elevator, so you're kind of in a prime spot right now to be able to dictate when this gets done. You know, you don't want to have to during election season and, you know, those kind of things. So, you know, we could work with you at the point right now while you have a working elevator schedule this. So that is a nice, yeah, I think you wanted it done by March 1st.
Yeah, I believe so.
Any other questions?
So if we didn't box in the sewer line and the 2 water lines and the cables that run up it, how do we add in the baffle for the ledges?
That's separate, isn't it? Or
That was part of the 247, so it encompassed the boxing in of the pipe.
Correct.
I think part of the 247 encompasses turning that. Technically, right now, by code, we don't have an elevator room. We got I guess, an elevator space. An elevator room is what, a 5x7, 6x7
room. But to answer your question, I did not get a broken out itemized,
right?
You know, what this costs, what that costs. I can get that to you as a discount if you don't want to do the patching. Our company does not. I mean, we'll give you the first price per spec as you requested. You're still going to sign a waiver that, you know, you're not doing all the other work. Again, with the spec with the cab included, you'll sign a waiver. When you go to the last option, which includes everything, if you do everything, there won't be a waiver. If you don't do certain portions, you'll sign a waiver for those portions, and then I can break that out for you if you. That makes sense?
Yep.
I just have to propose everything. Yep. To make it legal. So.
All right. More questions? So Scott, maybe you can take a good close look at these and make a recommendation.
Sending that broken out list would be helpful for us, I think.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
That would be really helpful. And then we can take this up next week for decision making.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Very helpful. Thanks, Scott.
You got it.
And then we have the first reading of amendments of the 2013 revised zoning ordinance for Clay County. And Drew, and welcome, Cindy. Do you want me to say this? Yeah.
If you're uncomfortable, yes.
So easily taken back.
Put her up in the hot seat.
Oh, okay. Well, Dick is here. Excellent. Thanks for zooming in, Dick.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't know what my timing's going to be right here. We're at the Great Plains Synfuels plant right now, and I don't know what time the rest of the tour will be ready here to move on to our next stop. So I'll try to stay connected as best I can.
Okay, great. Thank you.
The solar zoning ordinance, went back through planning and zoning, grammar and spelling changes were made, changes to the setbacks, and yeah, that's where we're at.
So it's pretty similar to the last one we looked at, and the major changes are in the setbacks. And
yeah, there were quite a few things. Yeah, right. Y'all go on. Oh. Lighting.
like, yeah, that the downlighting that the folks had talked about the first reading. Anything else we should know? No? Okay, then I'll open the public hearing to comment. And we do limit people to 5 minutes. So Cindy?
If you don't
Go-
mind.
go ahead.
So, my name is Cindy Aiden. I'm Chair of the County Planning Commission. I just wanted to give you a little bit of background about our discussion.
Hold on one moment. It looks like someone in the back is having some trouble hearing.
There's chairs up front
You
here.
come
Go
on
ahead,
up
sit
to the
up
front
front
here. Yep.
Give you a little background about what we discussed at our last meeting, because setbacks really the only sticking point, I think, is one setback. But we added a bunch of stuff about drainage. We actually increased setbacks from residences, which I think was a good idea. We did the lighting and all of that stuff, but the biggest sticking point is the Spirit Mountain setback. And the members of the Planning Commission do not think that it should be anything more than a quarter of a mile. And me personally, I think the 125 feet is where it should be. There's a lot of reasons why I think that, but number one, I think that it is too oppressive to the landowners around there. They're not able to then develop their land. And what other things might we have to not do because we have a little chalk hill by Highway 19. I know there's a lot of talk about the view shed. Really don't know what the hell that means, but when I go up there and look, and I've been in and out of this county. I was raised here, so I only where I live, I look directly at Spirit Mound to the west of me. So I've been on that hill and looked at it for most of my life, and it's cool up there. It really is. You can see it's like you're in a different wind stream and all of that stuff. It's very cool, but all you're looking at is fields, and I can't say that an old soybean field at the end of its life looks really great, you know. So I don't know what the view shed is. There's nothing you can look at that doesn't have Highway 19 in it, unless you look west. Well, then you got the gravel pit and the landfill. And the other thing I just wanted to say too is this is an opportunity for some economic development that is sorely needed in the county. Renewable energy, come on, renewable energy. This is, get rid of that monster on the bluff. And then there was this little lawsuit that just was recently announced, I think it was last December, that said something like small groups of people can't be allowed to own the view, is basically what it said. And I just want you guys to keep that in mind, because that's there and that could come back. So appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Cindy. Other speakers, you are welcome to come up to the podium. And
well, I think I can speak from here.
okay.
I'm not a public speaker, but I'm opposed to the solar panels. I live in the country where I'm.
And can you tell us your name?
Bob Burbach.
Bob Burbeck. Thank you. Welcome.
Can you go to the mic because we have people online?
Yep.
I'm opposed to the solar panels. I guess part of the reason I live in the country is for the beauty of the land out there, living in the country, and I'd like to maintain that. I guess I have concerns about what happens 5, 10, 15 years from now when solar is obsolete. What's going to happen to the panels that are there? Or is the company going to file bankruptcy and pull out and you're going to have this eyesore forever? What will happen to the land water with the panels that are going to reduce the evaporation, and we're going to have a bigger water problem than we already have. What will it do to my health? And I guess I question a little bit, why take good, productive farm ground out of use? Why not take some marginal land and use it instead? And maybe use the good farmland that we're taking out of production to feed some hungry. I guess who's going to pay for the reduced value of my land? I'm 74 years old. I don't have time to recover something like that. And I guess why, I question why I feel like, I feel like there's not enough reason to do it. Why ship money out to out-of-state investors? Why not keep the money in the state, in the county? Excuse me. And I guess the other question I had was, don't we get notice on things like this? I live right across the road from the solar panels, and the only way I found out about this is by the neighbors, the grapevine. I thought I probably should have gotten notice that this meeting was being held.
This is just an ordinance. This has
Yeah,
there is
right.
no
There's no specific
proposed solar
project.
farm
Yep.
right now.
Okay.
Yeah, so the idea of this ordinance is to regulate at least some of the things that you're concerned about. So it does contain a decommissioning requirement, so that if a solar farm wanted to come into Clay County, they would be required to put up a bond, and that would cover the cost of decommissioning, getting rid of and soil restoration at the end of the life of the solar farm. So I think the Planning and Zoning Commission did a good job of trying to figure out. So all this does really is it regulates the possibility of someday in the future. Because if we don't have a regulation for solar farms and a solar farm comes in, we got nothing, right? So this is a regulation that if a solar farm did request planning clearance, planning approval, that we would have this ordinance in place to protect the county from things like, solar company leaving us with a big mess and leaving the soil, poorer. So those things are all in there. So the point of it is protection, as opposed to, it's not approving any individual solar farm. Others who would like to speak? Yeah. Let us know your name.
Richard Nissen. And main problem I have is nobody's been contacted on this that we know of. Have any of you people have any idea where this solar farm is supposed to go?
Yeah, this is not a proposal for a solar farm. All this is a regulation for any farm that might want to come into the
nobody's
county.
been contacted.
We don't have any current applications. No.
Yeah, so this would create a conditional use.
Yeah.
So this would create a process whereby someone would need to.
How do we know where this farm is going to go?
They'll need to ask for a conditional use permit if we pass this.
This ordinance is Clay County wide.
Right.
I know.
So when an application comes in.
If it goes where I've been told it's going to go by hearsay, drainage is a real big problem.
And that's addressed in here.
Yeah. And right now we're saturated where this proposed farm is supposed to go. We had a 1/2 inch of rain 2 days ago, I think it was. And the water went over the road in 5 different places on a 1/2 inch of rain.
Yeah.
But if the solar panels are there, what's that going to do?
And I recall you had your drainage concerns came up at the last meeting, and it was part of the reason we kicked it back down to planning and zoning to make sure those were included. Have you had a chance to look at the current draft and see whether those address your concerns?
I haven't studied it, no.
Okay.
So, I mean,
I was pleased to see that was
got to be controlled drainage some way or other.
Yeah, and there is a requirement in the ordinance, which has been published in the local papers.
So
for drainage, tile, subsurface, and surface drainage shall maintain the original alignment, gradient, and water flow to the greatest extent possible.
Okay.
And that was an addition that P&Z added as a result of the last time we all talked about this.
Just so long as it gets taken care of, because it's pretty serious out there right now.
That's for sure.
If they disturb it, they have to fix it.
Yep.
Yeah. And that was, that is the value of public hearings, right? You came to the last one and we learned.
Appreciate you bringing that to our attention.
Yeah. We learned and your concerns got added.
Yep.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
My name is Gary Scott. My land's out by Dick's. So I'm concerned about the drainage too. And I look at your ordinance and I look at J, drainage, tile, subsurface and surface drainage shall maintain the original alignment, gradient and water flow to the greatest extent possible. Doesn't give me a whole lot of faith that anything's going to be done. But you know, you can stop that drainage. There's levees available, there's drain ponds. Anybody that puts in a parking lot in any large city, there's going to be a drainage pond there. And if something like this happens, I would think you would want to use that J drainage to really just limit any drainage that comes off of it. I'm also concerned if you've got drainage off of it, whatever it's used for, if there's anything that's, you know, toxic, that's going to come off of there. So I would think levees, drainage ponds, and that sort of thing would be included in that J.
So I think I think that an important thing, an important aspect of the way that this is drafted is this is adding not a permitted use, but a conditional use. And so in the conditional use process, a person, yourself or anyone else concerned could come to that hearing and you could specifically point to this letter J and you could say, Planning and Zoning Commission, please make some like forceful condition that addresses this specific issue at this specific piece of ground.
That's what I'm doing at this point.
Yep. And so that is something that with, as it's written now, that would be something that a concern you can bring to the Planning and Zoning Commission, and then,
I would hope so.
Yep, that's right. So that's built into this.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Nancy Ellison, and I am the representative for the Erlen Ellison Trust. And I feel bad that there's so many farmers here and they're worried about drainage and all of that, because that is way far in the advance. Because right now, all we're trying to do is get some kind of setbacks that are appropriate, and then maybe a solar farm will come, and we don't know if that will happen. And I took a break from work, but I have to go back, and I understand that everybody's worried, but it seems like they're getting worried before that would even happen. You know, they're asking for, well, what is the drainage going to be like? What it's going to be like? The solar, if they end up approving the setbacks, the solar will then decide. And someone said, well, why would they put it here? Because of the abstracity of the Spirit Mound power plant that's already there. If the solar can't go into that grid, they probably won't come. So that's why this is the area. This is the land that they want. Why can't they go somewhere else? Because that grid isn't available. And so I just wanted to state that. That's probably far off in the future, but if the setbacks for Spirit Mound were so tight that nothing could come and be brought up around it, then they would be out probably. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Pat.
Good morning. I'm Pat Gross, Spirit Mound Board of Trustee member, speaking for President Megan Jarcho, who was unable to give remarks today. So I'll be brief. And thank you for your willingness to consider us here. To be clear, and again for the record, the Spirit Mound Trust does not oppose alternative energy. We believe it offers great potential for the future of Clay County. And we continue to appreciate your continued interest in setback protections for the view from Spirit Mound, which, as we have pointed out, is a nationally significant cultural and natural resource, one that continues to attract thousands of people to Clay County. Ahead of this hearing, we sent you additional comments, as has the National Park Service. They detail our strong opposition to the recently revised proposed setback for Spirit Mound, now put before you by the Planning and Zoning Commission. Please consider our letter to you as part of today's hearing. There have been considerable remarks by county appointees reminding us of landowner rights in this issue.
Oops.
As a fifth generation South Dakotan, I'm invested in family farmland in 2 South Dakota counties, and I've resided as a taxpayer in Clay County for 54 years. As state director for the then Congressman Tim Johnson, I saw and I was involved in the work that he put into establishing protections for Spirit Mound and securing it as a historical treasure. It is a treasure, and it's a treasure that's enjoyed and appreciated by many people. I and members of the trust, most of whom own land, clearly understand landowner rights. We believe one point that has not been fairly considered in public discussion is the concept of the rights of the public. As we point out in our letter, the commission also has an obligation to the public, which we believe in this situation has a vested interest. Spirit Mound is a high-profile public property supported by both public and private dollars, and therefore the public has what we would consider a vested interest. It deserves a more meaningful protection than the proposed quarter-mile setback, in our opinion. We also believe that after public discussion and previous considerations, we had a compromise, and it was reached at the February 13 meeting of the commission, which was a 1 mile setback versus our original ask of 2 miles. I say this for public understanding because I still think there are a lot of people that do not understand where this is going and the value of good zoning. There was considerable support for 1 mile with no public objections being expressed at that meeting. So if adopted, we strongly believe the compromise of a 1 mile setback for the mound represents an opportunity for the commission to meet responsibilities both to landowners and the public. We thank you for your willingness to give our remarks and position fair consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Mary McGurk, and my husband Paul and I own farmland near Spirit Mound. And we have been interested in alternative forms of energy for many years. In the late 70s, we worked with an organization in Sioux City to get earth-sheltered homes approved in the city limits. The city, state, and federal governments at that time were opposed to them because of they were considered basement homes. And in 1980, through the organization's continued efforts, we were able to build an earth-sheltered home, meaning we had 3 feet of dirt on the top of our house. The south side was exposed to passive solar. And so for many years, we were able to heat the home with wood-burning stoves and the passive energy. We often talked about a form of solar energy that would be able to store power for us, which would be solar panels. In March of 2020, we moved to Sergeant Bluff and no longer able to use our solar passive in our other house. We became acquainted with someone who had solar panels and was pleased with their performance. So in December of 2021, we installed 25 solar panels and 2 storage batteries in our home. They have been in operation since March of 2022. In May 2022, we were 94% self-powered, and in May of 2023, we were 99% self-powered. And in May of this year, we were 93% self-powered. So we have been very pleased with the results of having the solar panels. You know, no noise or anything that generates from it. And so we just would like to think that our participation in this would help continue our efforts in the energy conservation. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
My name is Bill Ranney, and I'm a resident of Spirit Mound Township, and I do live within 1 mile of Spirit Mound. Speaking in support of the 1 mile setback, I don't own any farmland. I've got a little less than 10 acres. I realize there's already disturbances in the area of the gravel pit. Any farming area is an adverse effect to the viewshed. But nonetheless, even if it's agricultural fields, it's still that flat landscape that Lewis and Clark witnessed from the top of the mound. So my concern with putting a the solar farm there, it's an incremental encroachment within the view shed. And if we continue to allow developments within that 1 mile, pretty soon that it has made a really strong adverse effect to what we were able to view from Mound. And, you know, right now, myself and a lot of people went up there during the solar,
eclipse.
Oh, Northern Lights.
Northern Lights, yeah. There was a huge amount.
That was nuts.
And they were there because of minimal light. And I don't know, I know that the facility at New Underwood is a major development that does affect, you know, what you see at night and during the day. And so I am, in that regards, I'm speaking in support of the 1 mile setback. Since I also live there, I'm happy that planning and zoning increased the setback for residences. I'd still would like to see it more. They upped it to 300 some feet. I would appreciate 500 some feet, because I don't think anybody wants any kind of industrial development, you know, right outside their kitchen door. 125 feet is a pretty small amount. That's the width of a county road. So,
Did there's some language about downcast lighting that's been added to this? Does that address any of your lighting concerns?
it does.
Okay.
Yes. Good. And I'm pleased to see that Rural Electric is planning a shelter belt on their north side.
Oh, I'm pleased to hear that too. Yeah. Good.
Decrease that light.
All right, thank you.
Now's the time.
Now's the time.
There you go.
So I'll just reintroduce myself quickly. I'm Clinton Christensen. I grew up here in Vermilion, actually on a farm north of town, within view of Spirit Mound, where my family still owns land. I'm speaking on their behalf as well. So I want to voice my support for, and really just echo everything that the Planning and Zoning Commission said for experts on this issue. I would encourage.
Usually we would help with those who are going into the plant, but we'll all be there for emotional support.
See, Dick,
Mute,
maybe if you can mute.
Yep, I am.
Thank you.
That happens. So I just want to encourage, first of all, thank you guys for your work. I know it's a tough job. I salute you and thank you for the time to speak. I would encourage you to adopt at most the 1/4 mile setback, which is already compromised. And really, frankly, I agree with the zoning commission that 125 feet would be more appropriate. I believe that's the setback at the National Missouri River Federal Park there. I could be wrong, but I believe it's 125 there. So there's several reasons for this. Economic development, which was already mentioned, what kind of a precedent you'd be setting for future such regulations, as well as honoring the spirit of Lewis and Clark. So let me go through those quickly here in less than 5 minutes. So I read the letter that the Spirit Mound Trust has sent, and I also want to thank the members of the trust. I mean, I'm a lover of Spirit Mound. I grew up driving by it twice a day. I've walked up there probably 100 times every time I come back and visit. It's one of the things that I do. So thank you all who are here for your work there. I just happen to disagree with your assessment of what's equitable and actually appropriate solution for the county. So they're calling for originally 2 mile setback. That would be 12,000 acres if you add up 2 miles. Presumably, obviously the geometry is a little different, but let's say 6,000, 5,000 acres would be a 1 mile setback. So you've got a 300 acre plot, roughly 20 acres for the Spirit Mound. And if you have a setback of a mile, that's the people who are a part of that get to dictate 6,000 acres around them, what can be built. I questioning that. Further, I would say this idea of a view shed. This is a subjective concept. Okay, as the planning and zoning pointed out, one man's view shed, one man's view of an eyesore, which was mentioned, is another man's view of sustainable, environmentally friendly economic development. And that's completely in the eye of the beholder. And to try and set a precedent based on concept of small group of people's idea of what beauty is completely arbitrary and has no business setting policy. moving on. If this kind of development, which again, we're talking about alternative energy, we're talking about sustainable, environmentally friendly, the trust expresses that they support alternative energy, but their actions are demonstrating exactly the opposite of that. There's a word that starts with hip and ends with ocracy when you say one thing and do another. And I would just, again, discourage that kind of process. Further, if not this kind of development, which again is clean, there's no chemicals being used. You've got you've got years potentially of no chemicals being used, no tractors, no industry. You've literally just got solar panels that sit there and absorb the sun while on about half the space is still open. I just drove here yesterday to be here for this through Indiana and Illinois, southern Indiana and Illinois. Several solar farms were there, and there's lots of gaps. And underneath of those solar farms was greenery, was grass. And actually, you could plant natural grasses, and a lot of them would fit in right in there. So, if that kind of development can't go in, what can? I mean, I can't imagine what could be developed there if not something as environmentally friendly as that. And again, this concept of view shed is concerning because every single landowner has a view shed, and every single landowner would be entitled equally to their own opinion of what beauty is. And they could come here and say, well, I don't like the view of your boat that you have when you're there, or I don't like that kind of tree. It's messing up my view shed, and don't build a grove there. That's part of my view shed. It's a completely subjective concept that has this really, like, you're setting a dangerous precedent, probably opening the commission, as the planning and zoning mentioned, to lawsuits over property rights. So furthermore, there's a financial factor here. Energy development, you're right, we don't have any proposals before the board, but you're laying the groundwork here, and energy development comes with taxes, as you all know, and a potential boon to the county that, as we've heard in this very meeting, is cash strapped. It strikes me as a little bit counterproductive, especially for an organization like the Spirit Mound Trust that, as we heard today, takes public dollars to veto on a subjective concept of view shed the potential for massive economic development that leads to tax dollars for the public good. Maybe supporting housing. Sounds like there's a need for some housing, low affordable housing and rent subsidies here. That's the kind of thing those dollars could help. So again, I just want to reiterate in closing that I love Spirit Mound. I walk it all the time. I'm a great, my family's practicing environmental stewardship. A lot of our land is in CRP for exactly the same reasons. So it's not that, you know, we're not talking about some greedy fat cat capitalist from New York who are trying to come in and buy up this land and put God knows what on it. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about, you know, local people who want the opportunity to develop their land for the benefit of the broader county. And so I love South Dakota, and I intend to move back. I'll be here in August full time. But I had to leave when I was 18, or part of the reason I left was because of the lack of economic opportunity. Clay County's population hasn't changed much in 30 years of my time. Okay, I'm gonna be back up. So let me just say, in closing, we're all about, let's honor and revere Lewis and Clark's legacy. Lewis and Clark didn't travel across the country through Spirit Mound just to take pictures, not even to draw a map of it and say, wow, this is really pretty. Let's preserve this view shed forever. They came because they wanted economic development. All of us are here because of the economic development that followed in their wake, and creating an ordinance that would allow for further economic development would be honoring Lewis and Clark's legacy, in my opinion. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Other speakers? Yes, welcome.
Mark Wetmore, I live in Vermillion. I jumped up just partly to defend the Spirit Mound Trust. There was indication, of suggestion that we get government money somehow. Of course, we don't. We're a volunteer organization with no input except for donations that we get. The previous gentleman's estimate of how many acres are going to be taken out by a 1 mile setback was off by at least 50%. It's less than half of what he suggested. And while I'm here, a little history about the setback issue. Well, first, we truly believe that a 1 mile setback has absolutely no impact on potential economic development of any kind. 1 mile around Spirit Mound. we've had at least 3 companies that have expressed interest in a solar farm here. The first one was NextEra, 2 years, well, fall of 21 probably. They met with the National Park Service before they did anything. They talked about the Spirit Mountain. They came to the county, and at least what I know, the land that they optioned, they bought options back then. We're all more than 2 miles away from the hill. So you have a 2-mile setback then. And that was when they couldn't access the materials. The panels weren't available. The deal fell through. But they talked to the park system. They went more than 2 miles away. The issue of, we're not talking about a specific project today is true, but it's a little bit, that's not why you're doing the ordinance. But on the other hand, the effort really was stimulated when one company came to Vermillion, went around town, had multiple meetings with people, and they were very frank about the land they'd optioned. And they'd optioned land across the road from Spirit Mountain. So there is a project, as far as I know, it's still viable. And that's really partly why what started this was a specific project. So people that are concerned about that have a legitimate reason to be. And well, one other thing about the setback issues, I have an 80 acres across Highway 19 from Spirit Mountain. And I was approached a year ago by a third company, Savion, who is a subsidy of Shell Oil, I think. And I told them they couldn't have my 80 because it was too close to Spirit Mountain, but they showed me the map of their project that they were thinking about. And it extended from across the road from Spirit Mountain off to the southeast. They quickly got beyond a mile on their map. So in the project they were thinking about. So I guess what I'm trying to say, I already said it, I'll say it again. The 1 mile setback is not going to affect any likelihood of a solar project or anything else coming here. You could ask the AES if you wanted to see what they say about it. So I know it's a tough issue. I understand the incentives of the other side. So we're at the mercy of you guys. It's your judgments. So thank you.
All right. Thanks, Mark. Other speakers? Tim?
Hello again. Tim Schreiner, the chair of the Clay County Historic Preservation Commission. When the Clay County Commission created us in 1987, it said that the Historic Preservation Commission should promote the use, conservation, acquisition of historic properties in Clay County for the education, inspiration, pleasure, enrichment of the citizens of Clay County, the state, and the nation. So we all know the incredible significance, historical significance of Spirit Mountain. That's what makes Spirit Mountain different, is that it's arguably the most historically significant piece of property in the county. And that's why we're interested in this proposed regulation. While most of the sites of the Lewis and Clark expedition have been washed away and vanished in the years since 1804, the difference is that Spirit Mountain is the one place where the journals tell us that Lewis and Clark stood on that specific spot on a certain day in 1804, August 25th, 1804. And so now people can go and see basically the same thing that Lewis and Clark and the Port of Discovery saw in 1804. Their journal entry, which is pretty long about Spirit Mountain, talks a lot about what the landscape that you could see for miles and miles and miles. So in recent years, there's been, as we all know, recent decades, there's been a lot of work to restore and promote the historical, cultural, ecological significance of Spirit Mountain. So we've made a lot of improvements there compared to when I went to college here. Spirit Mountain was a feedlot, but now it's a beautiful place where 25,000 people a year come to Spirit Mound and visit the site. Just to remind you of the historical significance of Spirit Mound, the 320-acre property is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. Sorry about my voice, getting over a cold. The State Game Fish and Parks Department, which now owns the site, established it as Spirit Mound Historic Prairie and a state park. The National Park Service and National Recreational River have added small interpretive displays to help the 25,000 people a year who go there and see the site. Most of whom climb to the top of Spirit Mound and enjoy the views that we've all talked about, and that Lewis and Clark presumably saw, although the river was out closer in those days. The 3/4 mile trail leading from the parking lot to the summit has been designated a National Recreational Trail. And Spirit Mound sits on a spur of the Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail. So the effort to save Spirit Mound has used federal money, state money, county money, Vermillion money, Chamber of Commerce money, and private donations to create what we have there now, much improved from 50 years ago. As a Historical Preservation Commission, we're asked to consider not only the boundaries of a historical place or site, but also the historical integrity of projects that could encroach upon, damage, destroy a historical place or its environs. That's our marching orders. I think we could all agree that the view from Spirit Mound is a big part of the essence of the significance. Visitors seldom gaze at the mound without climbing to the top and see what Lewis and Clark saw, as well as observing the animals and plants and et cetera in the area. The Game Fish and Park says on its website, it should provide, quote, provide Spirit Mound visitors with an opportunity similar to what Lewis and Clark saw, to what they experienced. The National Park Service notes that the views are heavily promoted in media and tourist information. Historic Preservation Commission believes that while a distant development seen from the top of Spirit Mound might be inevitable, an acreage of solar panels and a solar farm a mere 125 feet from the boundaries of Spirit Mound would dominate the views that state, federal, and local people have worked so hard to improve and maintain. Therefore, we believe that 125 feet in the case of Spirit Mound is too small a setback. We would prefer that the commission heed its earlier desires of this commission to set a 1 mile distance from the boundaries of Spirit Mound so that the county can have its solar farms, but also provide visitors with views that can let them imagine without much difficulty the historical, significant, important views seen by Lewis and Clark. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak? Other speakers? No, then we'll close the public hearing portion of this and go on to commission discussion.
Well, first thing I wanted to start with is, I think we're probably going to end up talking a little bit about the setback, but I did want to say that Planning and Zoning did a great job addressing all the other concerns. The public did a great job at the previous hearing, bringing up stuff that wasn't on our radar. And I wanted to thank Cindy and you guys, all your work of getting the language in here that I think is appropriate. It's good. So I think that the lighting and the drainage questions, I think that these are the sorts of things that would be really helpful when the conditional use permits, if one arrives, that you guys have some good guidance about things that are really important to people and that conditions would be placed that address those. So that's something I wanted to note for sure. Well, there's a comment. Yeah.
Jeffrey?
I am. Yeah. Yep. I'd like to hear what others think. Yep.
Struggled a lot with this because I believe, Mr. Christensen, I believe I own your homestead and live there. And I can see Spirit Mound from my recliner. So I do struggle with this. But that's a personal view, which I can't bring here. I am grateful for the planning and zoning, and I agree with their setback, if they determine that that's what it is, that's what it is, in my opinion. My biggest concern is drainage, because I live out there and the water is terrible. I mean, and the drainage has been addressed now, and I see the screen just went away. You know, it's a short paragraph in there, but it says the surface drainage shall maintain. So that means it has to be maintained to at least as close to original as possible. So I think this all comes in, correct me if I'm wrong, Sydney and Drew, that this all comes within the cup, right?
Yes.
So this is a broad ordinance, I mean, to give guidance to this, you know, if we get an application, if that ever comes, if that day comes, this is, you know, we need a starting point. So some of the finer details are going to come with the cup. So that's what we've got to count on our planning and zoning, and those will have public hearings for every application that comes in front of them. So that's the opportunity there. Here, we just need a starting point. And, you know, the setback, trust me, I have struggled with this because I live in that area, but I'm a strong advocate. This is your land and you can choose to do what you want with it. And if we get into this, you know, setback stuff and the view shed, which I understand that, but what if somebody now wants to build a grain storage facility? You know, Lewis and Clark didn't see one of those either. You know, so there's so many different things that would open up precedents being set, you know, and those type of things. So I trust planning and zoning's judgment on this, and I will agree with them with that setback. And I'm happy with the drainage wordage at this point. And like I said, it's the finer details will come in the cup.
So I have a question, I think. So we've been batting this around for a while now. And honestly, my initial take on the request for a 2-mile setback was that was too much. And so I really thought hard about what I do think that there is. I think that there is great value to the mound itself and specifically to views from the mound. I do think, I mean, that number is correct. 25,000 people come and visit the mound each year. It's a major tourist draw. If you're out there, you're very likely to see license plates from other states. You know, it's something that is nationally significant and deserves some extra protection. I see extra protection in these setbacks. So this is more than 10, well, I guess not more than 10 times any of these other ones, but more than 4 times any other setback listed. So the mound, as you guys have provided this, that is additional protection besides what anything else is getting. You know, that one thing to consider is that these conditional use permits is only conditional use in the agricultural zoning. So the vast majority of the land along the river, you know, things like that, you would already requesting the conditional use permit, you're going to be requesting it in an area outside of that zoning area. So I don't, might be in the weeds for people, but there's a pretty big buffer all along the river. You know, I think that those are two different things happening there. There you go. We've got this map up here. So yeah. Oh, I'm so glad we have this down here now. So here's our beautiful county that I love so much. And what you see here, basically everything except for these little colored bits here and these green patches is A1 agricultural for the city of Vermilion. And so these green parts are natural resources conservation. So this would not be a conditional use within any of the zoning except for agricultural. So so you're already going to be back from those separately. So that was just something that was in my mind. But I had been, you know, from the get-go, I've been thinking that something like a half mile to a mile seems the most appropriate at the site. You know, I actually, with the right conditional use process, I think that 0 setback could be appropriate, but that's relying upon some future body, I don't know who they are, that's going to be reviewing that conditional use permit to put the sorts of requirements on a facility in that spot that has a prairie restoration with habitat continuity from the mound. I think a solar farm with with grassland immediately adjacent to the mound makes the habitat at the mound healthier. It increases, you know, the grassland that you see from the top of the mound, which is more like what Lewis and Clark saw than what they see right now. So I mean, I can imagine a world, but that's requiring what we're writing now is hopefully a simple regulation that everybody can follow and that provides the appropriate guardrails for the Planning and Zoning Commission that's going to hear this conditional use permit in the future. So I'm just sharing a little bit of my reasoning about this, but like I don't think that having a solar farm next to the mound is necessarily a bad idea, but I do think that if it were to be sited near the mound, then there's a lot of things that we would want to ask of that facility. We'd say, you know, we don't want any light after dark. You know, we don't want panels that are, you know, higher than this height or angled this way. We want them spaced out this far. I mean, I think that there'd be a whole lot of work that would have to be done to make that appropriate. So I think simpler than that is just, there you go. So I think this setback question, I think, is the right way to address it. So, I was coming, you know, I think that a primary concern for me is I'd like to see solar development in our county. I think it's good for the landowners. I think it's good for our tax base. I think it's good globally for the energy supply that we need. I think that it is good for, you know, Mr. Christensen was referencing jobs. You know, I think that being a solar hub in Clay County would be good in lots of different ways. So my main concern about setting a setback too small or too large would be that it would discourage development. But I think at the last meeting, we had a pretty robust discussion. We were here for hours. And it seemed like what came from that was that the 1 mile setback was not going to prevent it wasn't going to make it difficult for a company to site here. And that was my main concern there. So yeah, I would be comfortable with a 1 mile setback. I think that a 1/4 mile setback, in my opinion, is too small. I think that, especially based on all the discussion we've had over the last months and months. So, yeah. Yep.
Thank you.
I got. So if a company does appear and this goes through and stuff, and they have a contract with local farmers, whatever, that probably doesn't. But how does our requirements go into effect if they sell? If that company with Shell Oil sells to, you know, somebody else.
Their options.
No, they sell the solar company, the whole solar company sells.
So after the facility has been.
After it's up and running for 5 years or however long, and they sell it, do they have to abide by our contracts?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah.
Because it's not a contract, it's a regulation. The regulation is there regardless of who owns that thing.
That's governed in the conditional use permit section of the ordinance elsewhere. Yep.
It says that, it does say that somewhere,
Yep.
but it doesn't matter. That the conditional use goes with the land. That's the phrase.
Yep.
So it doesn't matter who owns.
And I trust the farmers that are involved in this and stuff will have protections in their own contracts.
I would.
Yeah.
No, I don't have anything that's.
Okay, unusual.
My personal opinion, I'm gonna keep to myself on solar.
All right.
Because of Shell owns it, well, yeah.
Yeah. Let's not talk about who owns what. That's getting way in the weeds.
Yeah, so really, to be clear, what my opinions have to do with this ordinance, which would apply to 100% of the large solar industries that came into the county. So what I'm about is setting up a regulation that everybody would have to abide by. You know, having been part of the last discussion, which started out with 2 miles, you know, spending some time out there driving around and up at the top of the mound and looking out, and talking to the National Park Service, you know, the state park folks. You know, I've gotten a lot of phone calls on this, and you know, I think Spirit Mound is a beloved public space that people deeply care about. Like Jeffrey, I think that 1 mile that we got to last time in the spirit of compromise, it sounds about right to me. You know, I think when you think about 25,000 people using this park each year, and its historic significance, the number of people who you know, Native Americans see it as a sacred space. I'm inclined to stay with the 1 mile. You know, to me, that seems not unreasonable. It would, I think, serve the greater good as opposed to the more narrow good. That's what I would propose. So is there a motion? So the action required here today,
yeah.
We are missing a commissioner. So he is actually working. He's on a tour of the Power Basin with other basin commissioners. So they obviously are moving between plants right now. So he could only be with us for a short time. So we don't know what he thinks. But the action required today is to move it on to a second reading. The action today is not final. So we will take this up again. Is it next week, the second reading? Mm-hmm. Is that when it's scheduled for? We don't have it scheduled yet. Oh, we don't have it scheduled yet. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So. Yeah, that's
but it's not 9 a.m. anymore.
So probably at the end of the month. Yeah, I think we'd be looking at the end of the month for the final decision. So without a full commission here, it's a little difficult, but I would at this point entertain a motion.
So I have a question before I make a motion on this for Michael. So I know that we can make small changes to an ordinance that we are hearing a first and a second reading on before final adoption. So if, you know, and it does sound like the one question that is still not 100% decided on at the commission level yet is that specific setback at that one location. If that's something that we change at the next meeting, do we have to go through a whole nother series of
I'd have to give it more legal consideration, but my gut would be that that seems like more than a small change, but likely start the process.
Really?
So if we were to do anything other than the 1320,
But I'm not going to give a real opinion on the spot. That's something that, especially when I'm just not.
Anytime we've done any other ordinances, a setback change is a significant change.
Okay.
I would just
really
in terms of the fact that we've gone back and through and that we've done it.
It doesn't have to start.
You would be changing it back.
It doesn't have to start over with you.
No, yes, you guys have to hear it.
But we would hear it twice.
We'd have to hear it. Yeah, we'd have to hear it twice.
Sure, absolutely.
All right.
That's what I meant. Ultimately, that may change. I mean, my opinion on that may change, but I would believe that we need to start over again. What does that mean? What does starting over mean? As a first reading with the.
So that would mean we would schedule this meeting again with, you know, if I was to say, you know, suggest that we make a motion, have it seconded, vote that we have I guess that we would move this to a first reading with a revised ordinance or with revised setback.
That's what I would believe.
Okay. And then the next meeting would be before us. We would be considering that. If somebody decided we want to change it back again, then we would do another. Is that right?
It probably doesn't hurt.
Okay. All right. So, in the interest of, I think, moving things along, I make a motion that we hear a first reading of the ordinance with a 3/4 mile setback from Spirit Mound, and otherwise exactly as written here, so. And that be at our, I guess not our next regular scheduled meeting, but the next one that we can get notice in for. So that's a motion on the table.
Is there a second? Well, if not, is there another motion?
I'll move to second reading as proposed.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So motion carries. It will go to second reading. As is. Thank you all for coming today and participating.
I've got a small admin question.
All right.
Yeah.
I will leave.
Oh, Drew, on that solar, in the very first sentence under 316.
Yep.
It says Kohler instead of solar.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Should be the very first bold printed line.
First bold
line. Heading.
Oh, okay. Oh, see, good. Yep. Hey, and there's two other little small grammar I'm gonna add in there too. Yep. But I'll highlight them and everything. On the admin side, I've got a building permit coming in for Lewis and Clark Regional Water System. If they're zoned for it, they're adding a couple new buildings. But the building permit fees end up being $100,000.
Yeah, they damn well should be. That place is huge.
Right? Yeah.
I want to tour and see what they're up to out there. They're doing, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm in an open meeting, but I've been amazed at how much work's going on.
To the fees, do we want to?
Could people take the conversations outside so our meeting can continue?
The meeting is still in session.
Yeah, if conversations could occur outside so our meeting can continue, that would be great. Thank you. Travis? That worked.
It's a $130,000 building permit fee. Do we want to collect that, remit that, collect it all? Just want to run it by.
They don't even, I'm sorry. I
just running it by because
I can answer that in one word. Yeah, I think so.
No problem.
All right.
Or we can talk after. Yeah. I think it's a wonderful facility, but yeah.
All right. Rod. We've got a couple of right-of-way applications. Or more than a couple. Blue Peak's got 3.
Morning.
Good morning.
So, first one is Clay Row Water, the one that they already did. And last week, I told you they had 5. They did 5 borings, and I looked in the wrong file, and they did have permits for the other 4. This is the only one they did not have a permit for. And I have the checks. We took pictures. So I guess kind of we were ahead of the game because the other ones were done on the old form a year ago. But they called this when they bored it, and so we got pictures of them all.
Great.
So this is only one that needed a permit. And I included a picture, and I guess I should have took a different. Dick called me yesterday and asked too, and it doesn't really look that big of a pipe, but then that's the encasement, and the pipe, the line went through it, and I didn't take a picture of them actually sticking the line in there, but it was there, they run it through there, and that's my fault. So that is the encasement, and the water line is inside of there, and yeah, I should did a better job of taking a picture of it. And that's what Dick was asking, so. But other than that, I recommend that you approve it, even though it has been already done before the permit. And I talked to Rose Engineering, the guy that's in charge of it. And so hopefully if they're done, they're complete with their project, as far as I know. So.
All right.
Hopefully we don't have this problem in the future. But they did call us for the other borings, and they wouldn't have had to, but I take that back. Flavor of Water didn't call us, the boring company. Gator,
Winter Construction.
yeah, they're the ones. And they weren't happy with the way the work was given to us either, so they apologized, and it really wasn't their fault, but they did call us, so.
Great. All right. Is there a motion to approve the Clay Rural Water application?
Move to approve.
Second.
It's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And then we've got 3 right-of-way applications from Blue Peak.
Okay.
That's a lot of borings.
I sent you a map. We split it up into 3 projects. Just what makes it easier for us. And everything, we've checked every place they're gonna bore. We have checks for permits, and I believe it's $4,700 check for all the borings. So everything on the 3 applications looks fine with me, so I recommend you approve them for Blue Peak.
Move to approve.
So motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
The only thing I have to say is this goes right down the middle of the county, like the Ballin Road and a little bit of the bluff. And this is one of the smaller ones that you're gonna see coming up in the future. So we have like 5 or 6 companies right at this time boring. I mean, getting ready to work at Clay County just alone.
Yeah, and I think that's the South Dakota Connect grants that are coming to the companies that makes it feasible for them to provide service in rural areas.
So Blue Peak is gonna owe us another $4,750 for the inspection fees after the borings, right?
No, that's $125 per boring for us to go inspect it. So that is the inspection fee for all 3 projects. I didn't make out 3 different checks. I told them they could put all the borings. So there's like 38 borings, $125 a piece, and that's our inspection fee.
Okay.
And then there's $125 each for each project.
All right.
And did we make them put it into 3 projects?
Yes. They wanted to put it in as one, but it is too much to keep track of on one permit. So and I've been splitting up the other ones within reason. The next one we got coming has 48 borings, but we only did it in 2 just because it's a lot more houses involved. But and we never specified, I guess, if that's something you think we need to change? Or just charge them just one project in the mornings, but
Well, that's what I was wondering if, not, you know, not to complicate it, but since we made them split it up for ease of watching it, should we refund them the $250? Since we, instead of one big project, it's three little, I don't know. We've had projects like this before, haven't we?
yeah,
Jefferson?
we already did the long line one down the Burbank area. We split that up into maybe three, I don't remember, 2 or 3.
Well, we'll just leave it then.
Everybody, nobody's had a problem with it, but I mean, if you want me to change it, that's
No, I
fine.
think
too,
especially if
but
that's what we've been doing already.
we're trying to
Consistency is
keep
good.
it, you know, the same for everybody.
Yep, that's important.
All right. So do we have a motion?
I think I moved
Yeah.
to approve, and I
Yep.
think it was
There's a
seconded by
second.
Dave. Yep.
All right, so any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Anything else, Rod?
The bridge on 306. Oh, if we don't get any more rain, well, should be done on Monday. So the road closure I told you about, that was gonna be this week, is gonna happen on Friday now. So it'll be for 3 hours. They're gonna contact us so we can get a hold of the sheriff's office, so all the fire departments know it's shut down. They're gonna let us know when it's back open. Then they're gonna pave on Monday. And so that project will be done. And then the other project on University Road, that one begins Monday, but you might be getting some calls that the signs are going up, I believe, tomorrow for that project, because the company can't be there to put them up on Monday. So they're ready to go. The cones are setting out there. So people should have a little advance notice it's coming. But that's not gonna be near as, I mean, they're gonna be in and out of there, weather holding, like a week. So that's not near as intense as this one, unless they find more on the deck. So,
great.
the one on 306, I got a whole new, from the rebar up, a whole new concrete deck.
Oh, nice.
And the other one just gets the top of the concrete shaved off, and like we chip seal our roads, it's a epoxy chip seal they spray and
awesome.
Throw aggregate, small aggregate on it, the same way the Dakota Street looks. It kind of turns it off green looking.
Nice.
But it'll be nice.
All right.
We need to preserve those
Yeah.
bridges because it costs way more than what it does to fix them right now. Anyway.
Yeah.
Get 312 undug out. Log jam.
Yes, Pullman was out there whenever it rained. Monday, when it started going horns, when he showed up.
You're gonna have to narrow that.
Yeah.
And then we hauled him out the next day. So, cause he couldn't load with long reach, so we got it out in the banks. We cleaned it up ourselves, so. Yeah, there's still a couple under there, under the bridge. We're gonna have to wait till the water goes back down, so try to get a chain, snake them out of there, but. You know, but there's very large cottonwood lays up against it, and then everything sticks to it, so.
Yeah, my phone blew up morning.
Yeah, it happened before, and we tried to get him out there, and it just didn't work out, and then the water came back up, so yeah.
It's just the water, I mean, it's so spotty with the heavy rains.
And we have nothing that can even come close to reaching it, you know.
All right, anything else?
Nope, that should be anything for me.
All right, thank you. And see vouchers, has everybody had a chance to see the vouchers? It's a motion to approve,
Second.
and there's a second. Any discussion?
Nothing other than we'll have the regular amount next week too.
Yeah.
These were just, we wanted to get that Beckenhauer one paid.
Yep.
And I thought, you know, let's just get the election ones paid too, so.
Yep. Makes sense. All right. There's no further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Is there any other business?
We had executive session for personnel.
Yeah.
Executive
okay.
session for personnel.
I have a question on the Clay County Park. What, is there anything in the progress on this grant stuff that we got?
Working on it. I mean, I think that there's been some good signs, questions coming back about things. So, yeah. So
we
like,
have any-
you're talking about like the flap grant and the raise grant?
Yeah, do we have any public meetings scheduled or?
Nothing yet. No. But hoping to have some news on that soon. Yep.
All right. Is there a motion to go into executive session for personnel matters?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Abandon you quick. What's that? They abandoned you quick.
Good things bring Georgia.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate the time.
Move to come out of executive session.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to come out of executive session. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Is there any other business to come
Michael, do you
before
have
us?
Bob? I don't think I do.
Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
A second.
Second. Okay, there's a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.
You want a normal meeting?
And thank you.